Lin Zhao was standing in the cafeteria, watching a little tea all calm. The host's voice covered the noise of conversations and the coffee machine. Scientists warn about a rare melting of the polar ice caps. Satellite images revealed a 30% reduction in just 72 hours. This was something humanity had never witnessed before. But the businessman next to him laughs and says it's just more alarmism about this climate change stuff. Those day reporters said anything just to get audience. The girl next to him stirring her coffee says that's right. In 2012, it was the whole Mayan calendar thing. In 2017, the meteor that passed I don't know how many kilometers away. Every time there was some kind of disaster supposedly on its way. It was the same lies just to get views, only the timing changed. But Lin Zhao, right behind them, tightens his grip on the coffee cup while diving into memories. Not of the past, but of a future he had already lived. A future in which these same voices that doubted all of this became screams of despair. Not caring much, he tells them they'd better be more careful. The world could plunge into chaos faster than they imagined. The businessman rolls his eyes, thinking the kid really is an idiot. And another woman from the side, over her glasses, asks if he really believes in that apocalypse nonsense, and says it's even cute how innocent he is. But then our protagonist's memories go to the first day, when the waters flooded the streets of Shanghai. Buildings collapsed over the floods, and the first king-level monster emerged from the depths. The massive size of the creature cast a shadow over the entire financial district. The screams and the frantic fight for higher ground. The world was overtaken by a taste of salt and fear. He then says to himself that it's funny to be called innocent. He stands up, leaves some money beside the coffee, and says he's heading out. The woman, thinking she offended him, asks if he felt offended and why he's in such a hurry. But he only replies that he's going to his apartment because he needs to prepare. The curious woman asks where he lives with a cheeky little smile. That's when he tells her he lives at Palace 104. Her eyes instantly light up. That's the biggest and most luxurious building in the neighborhood. She grabs her things right away, saying she works with interior design. And considering how luxurious that place is, it would be very interesting if she could see all the architecture inside his home. But Lin Zhao just shakes his head and says there are more important things than giving her a tour, then waves goodbye, leaving her all confused, man. Outside, he looks up and sees the clear sky of Shanghai. No sign of the devastation that was coming. Anyone there at that moment wouldn't believe what it would be like very soon. 2 years surviving in the flood apocalypse. The betrayal he suffered from Xiao King and the death at the hands of Evil Z. All of that was still yet to happen. But it was already engraved in his memory. And this time, he'd be ready. Our boy walks across the marble lobby of Palace 64 like he owns the place. That building had reinforced steel beams and a design made entirely for catastrophe resistance. It was less of a building and more like a luxurious fortress. As soon as Lin Zhao enters, the naughty girls can't help but smile at him. And while he walks by, he's just thinking about how this place became one of humanity's last safe havens. He enters the elevator, which silently rises to the 99th floor. The titanium doors open to what should be a normal, luxurious penthouse. But his idea of normal was walls lined with military crates instead of designer sofas. Piles of supplies nearly reaching the ceiling and rows of dry food. Water purifier, medical kit, and ammo man. All of that made that luxury place look like a survival maze. Lin Zhao gives a sly smile, saying that this time revenge is excellent, but precise. We then see 3 weeks earlier, when he suddenly wakes up sweating. He puts his hand on his chest, wondering what happened. As far as he remembers, he had just lost consciousness after being struck. But before he could focus on what went down, suddenly the little cistern window pops up for the bastard, something that was only visible to him. The system of the survivor's sea of talents. Before he could even understand what that was, the first ability is acquired. He gains the technopathy talent and starts wondering what the heck that is. The system explains it was the ability to control electronic devices even without power. It was kind of a skill to hack anything and at the same time turn on devices. The guy's Chinese, and if there's one thing he knows, it's systems. Right away, the pieces fall into place and he smiles. Being able to control electronics without energy would give him a huge advantage in the chaos that was coming. His phone then shows the date, exactly 1 month before the flood apocalypse arrives. And he doesn't waste a single second. Before lunch, the bastard had already created countless bank accounts and taken out loans wherever possible. Not only did he take loans under his name, but also under Xiao King's, his future girlfriend who betrayed him. The money came fast, and soon he'd have enough to start assembling his arsenal. The problem is, not long after, when he left home to start his plans, he ran into them. Xiao King was already standing out front, arms crossed, and an angry face. Next to her was Shou Jing, her brother, like a watchdog. With a fake tone and pretending to care, she asks where Lin Zhao is heading off to Sora like that. Our boy stares at Xiao King and her brother. Seeing their faces triggered countless memories. He sees himself 2 years in the future, inside the apocalypse. The water had already come, along with the creatures, and most of the city had been destroyed. There were monsters on the loose and floods were a regular thing. On one of the few days when the water had receded a bit, Lin Zhao went out to search for supplies. On the way, his phone rings. Shou Jing, his voice calls out, saying there were people going into the apartment to steal the supplies and he had to come back. Right away, Lin Zhao runs back in desperation and opens the apartment door. But before he can understand what's happening, something hits him square in the back of the neck. His vision starts to go dark in a matter of seconds, and just before passing out, he manages to turn around, just enough to see Mao Ji and Xiao Jing laughing together while Xiao King watched from the side. Her cold eyes made it clear she was part of it all. The memory fades, and back in the present, he's staring at the two who would betray him in the future. Xiao Xing once again asks what's going on. She wants to know why she's getting a bunch of messages saying someone is taking out loans in her name. Lin Zhao stays calm and says his account got hacked. Seems like someone got both their info, and he's heading to the bank now to fix it. Right then, Xiao Jing yells and grabs Lin Zhao by the collar, saying he's lying, asking if he really thinks they're dumb enough to believe he'd do something like that. But just as he goes to say Lin Zhao isn't leaving until he sorts it out of nowhere, he takes a fist right to the mouth man. The precision was perfect as skill developed during the survival times. Xiao Jing twists all weird and collapses unconscious on the ground. Right then, the sister screams in despair, asking if Lin Zhao has lost his mind. But he just adjusts his coat and asks if she really thinks that's madness. She better get ready because she had no idea how insane this world was going to get. Then he turns around and walks off, leaving the fool kneeling next to her brother. He catches the first bus and heads to a half-ruined building on the edge of the city. From the outside, anyone would say the place was abandoned. Peeling paint, dusty windows, and no one in sight. But he walks up to the door, knocks 3 times, pauses, and then knocks twice more. Of course he knew exactly how to get to the black market. Suddenly, a crack opens in the door and someone simply asks for the code. Lin Zhao just says that he saw the Azure Dragon. With that, the door opens, and inside, weapons line the walls. However, our boy isn't trying to draw attention since he just came back. He picks a simple pistol, reliable, silenced, and basic. He paid with the money from the loans and tucked the weapon inside his coat without saying a word. Next, he went to a luxurious real estate agency with floor-to-ceiling windows. The broker was startled when Lin Zhao said he wanted to sell his apartment right then and there. The offer was 25% below market value. It would be easy for the guy to make that profit back. The negotiation barely lasted. The agent knew he could take that apartment, sell it closer to market price, and make a 20% profit overnight. The only condition Lin Zhao made was that he'd stay a few more days in the place before moving out so they could sell it. The profit opportunity was too good, so the guy just accepted, and our boy left. Walking through the streets, he wondered why he didn't use his technopathy powers to try transferring money directly into his account. The problem was that the world was still organized, and if they trace him, things would get complicated. For now, he preferred to keep a low profile. Why take the risk when he knew each of the numbers that were going to be drawn? He remembered that lottery game very well, since it was just a few days before the deluge destroyed everything. So he heads to a lottery store. Obviously, he fills it out with extreme confidence, and the clerk even finds it a bit strange, but says nothing. On the way back, he can already sense someone watching him from afar. 2 masked guys in dark clothes just observing. He's sure they're goons, either from Xiao Jing or Mao Ji. Even though they weren't amateurs, his senses were way too sharp for that. He makes it home safely, but now he knows he's being watched. The next morning, Lin Zhao calls a certain number while his eyes are fixed on the TV, where they're talking about the melting of the ice caps. The person picks up, and right away he says he wants to rent a storage unit on Jinling Street, that giant one near Palace 104, and he needs it for today. The guy decides to throw out a high price that would make anyone hesitate, but Lin Zhao just says he'll transfer the money because he wants access today. With that, he hangs up, grabs his laptop, and starts buying various supplies. Canned goods, dry food, military-grade gear, and a water filter. He needed items with a shelf life of years, not months. And as always, he pays extra for immediate delivery. But when he leaves the house, the 2 guys are once again watching Lin Zhao hop into a taxi. One of them warns over the phone that the kid just left. On the other end, Xiao Jing orders them to follow him and not lose track this time. So they tail him all the way to the industrial district and see him unlocking a massive warehouse. Trucks keep arriving, unloading piles of supplies. The day is long, and by night, the goons call back telling Xiao Jing they found the kid's stash. He was stocking up on tons of food. Weirdly, there was lots of military stuff too. Right away, Xiao Jing tells them to break into the place and find out what he's up to. The guys say, all right, but say the pay better be worth it this time. When night falls, they break in through one of the side doors. As soon as they're inside, they see rows and rows full of supplies. One of them whispers that there's enough food in here to last years and years. Another takes a look and sees medical kits, a filter, and instantly decides to call Xiao Jing. He picks up on the first ring, listens to what they say, and already tells them to burn everything down. The guys just say, understood, and go get fuel, already pouring liquid everywhere. What they didn't notice is that, from the moment they stepped inside, there were cameras recording everything. And at the apartment, Lin Zhou's phone rings with a message. Invasion alert. He calmly slips the silenced pistol into his coat and heads out. The warehouse was silent when he entered through one of the secret doors. Unnoticeable and quiet, he approaches easily. Years of survival where noise meant death had taught him to be extremely cautious. The first one, poor guy, didn't even know what hit him, man. A silenced shot was muffled. The second one turned as the body dropped. But Lin Zhao was already there too, man. 2 more shots and it was over. The poor guys didn't even get a chance. Our boy just drags them to the back of the warehouse and digs a hole, throws them in, covers them with dirt, and puts a tarp over it. That spot was bound to flood first when the water rose. No one would ever even find this place. The following week, the warehouse just kept filling up. Every morning, Lin Zhao showed up early to train. He kept his body in shape because he knew what was coming. Meanwhile, Xiao Jing was pacing back and forth inside the apartment, wanting to know where those bastards had gone. Apparently, that scumbag had betrayed him, abandoned the mission, and now they were ignoring him. The sister next to him says they probably ran off with the advance payment he sent, but he just responds that those bastards wouldn't dare do something like that. It had already been 7 days since our boy bought the lottery tickets. The drawing happened on national television. Everyone gathered to see who'd win the jackpot this time. The numbered balls dropped one by one, all matching the ticket of our protagonist, who didn't show a single reaction. The last one drops, confirming him as one of the winners of the biggest prize in history. Obviously, that didn't surprise him, but the news of his win spread through the city like a flood. His face was on every screen, newspaper, and social network. The lucky guy who became a millionaire overnight. For Lin Zhao, this was the perfect moment. As soon as the money hit the account, the amount was so huge it would leave anyone dizzy. But he, on the other hand, already knew exactly how it would be used. He gets a taxi from the apartment he already sold and tells the driver to go to Palace 104. But as he's leaving home, another taxi merges into traffic right behind, tailing him. Xiao Qing obviously was already on his tail, man. She found out that the bastard was the new millionaire. There was no way she was gonna let him get away just like that. From a distance, you could already see the building, the glass facade gleaming in the sunlight of the luxurious fortress, the most prestigious skyscraper in Shanghai. And soon, it would be his base not just to survive the apocalypse, but also to get his revenge. As soon as he enters the lobby, he goes straight to the front desk and says he wants to speak with Liu Mylin about the purchase. The receptionist, a bit confused, asks if by any chance he has an appointment. Our boy just says no, but he's sure she'll want to talk to him, since he's here to buy the 99th floor. Right after the so-called Mylin shows up, man. All businesswoman and professional, she comes up to our boy and congratulates him, saying she heard about his luck winning the lottery and wants to know how Palace 104 can help him. Lin Zhao says he'll get straight to the point. He wants to buy the entire 99th floor. The poor woman is startled, but she can't really doubt the guy. He had won the lottery. So she says to come with her to the office. But on the way, man, Lin Zhao sees Xiao Qing entering the lobby. The girl was hunting him like a hawk, looking from side to side. And obviously, in a few seconds, she shouts his name. The sly one teleports man into flirt mode, grabbing his arm and pretending like nothing had happened that day at the apartment door. She says she's been looking for him everywhere, and right away introduces herself to Mylin as Lin Zhao's girlfriend. Mylin just says she understands and then says they can begin discussing prices, but he just interrupts and says he'll pay 20% above the full price. The only condition he has is that he gets access to the place in a week at most. Mylin is startled and looks a bit confused. Apparently, he was willing to spend nearly the entire prize just to get that floor. She thinks the guy's being foolish. Clearly, he doesn't have experience with money and just wants to spend however. Soon enough, they'll be broke again. But she knows how hard it is for someone to make an offer on the 99th floor, given the absurd price. Only someone foolish or someone who got money easily would want to spend like that. So she says it's possible, since that's the case. The paperwork was already being prepared when Xiao Qing leaned in and whispered in his ear, asking if he was really going to buy the whole floor. He really was an amazing guy, full of surprises. She always thought he was a bit more conservative when it came to spending. Lin Zhao turns to her and says, "People change." Contract signed and the first part of the amount transferred. In the same second, she hands a credit card to Xiao Qing, then says she has the special mission of picking all the furniture for the 99th floor. She could buy the most luxurious items and have everything delivered there. Right away, Xiao Qing got all emotional thanking him. She already wanted to kiss the guy and ran out saying she was going to call her friend Yang Lai. He didn't need to worry, she was going to make that floor perfect, and he wouldn't regret it. The moment she walked out the door, Lin Zhao called the warehouse team and told everyone to get ready to transfer everything to Palace 104 to the 99th floor. 2 days later, Mylin called and said they gave it their all, but that was the fastest they could manage. Finally, the 99 was ready for him. Discreetly, truck after truck began using the service elevator all day long to unload supplies. At the same time, the furniture from the luxury stores Xiao Qing had visited was arriving. The floor was getting filled, and with that, the last delivery was made. When the last piece of furniture was delivered, Lin Zhao made one final call to the bank and had the card that was with Xiao Qing cancelled. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, Xiao Qing was at a luxury store. The counter was full of shoes, designer clothes, and everything else. Yang Lei was next to her drooling, saying she really was lucky to have Lin Zhao, and asking her friend not to forget her once she started living in that place. Xiao Qing laughed and said she'd never forget and hugged the little card. But the clerk's expression changed and she apologized, saying the card had been declined. Xiao Qing says that's impossible. That card had access to millions, so just run it again. She'd been buying furniture all week, but after 3 attempts, the same result. Xiao King started turning red, then tried calling Lin Zhao, but it went straight to voicemail. Next morning, she came marching into Palace 64. Obviously, the sly one was furious, wanting to know how that bastard was ignoring the queen of that place. She stormed through the lobby like a hurricane, but as she headed toward the elevators, she was stopped. The guards told her that unfortunately, they had to check her ID. As soon as she gave her name, he apologized and informed her she was on a restricted list and couldn't enter. Even angrier, she asked if he had any idea of who she was. She was the girlfriend of the owner of the 99th floor, Lin Zhao. The guard replied he was just doing his job. Besides, it was Mr. Lin Zhao himself who requested that she not have access. The poor thing was about to explode with rage. Meanwhile, up on the 99th, our boy was finishing a few more push-ups. As always in the morning, he did a light workout while watching the news. Meteorologists were warning of an unprecedented rise in sea level. Several coastal regions were already reporting flooding, and experts said this could be the start of something catastrophic. Lin Zhao gave a dark smile. He walked to the panoramic window and looked out at sunny Shanghai. The place was beautiful and peaceful, and he said people better enjoy it while the calm lasts. On the other side of the city, Xiao King arrived at the apartment, furious with her brother, saying that bastard had humiliated her. She'd been completely embarrassed, standing there with all those shopping bags and another kind of shame at the building. Jing, lying on the couch scratching his chin, said that bastard was different now. He wasn't the same fool she had gotten with just take the apartment he got from his father. Xiao King said that first apartment didn't matter anymore. Now he'd be their way to riches after winning the lottery. Yang Li sprawled on the armchair, said he really was everywhere. Since the lottery thing, people had started calling him the Lucky Dragon of Shanghai. Jing's expression changed. He said they needed to move faster with a plan. If they hesitated or aroused suspicion, they'd lose their only chance. Xiao King asked what they were going to do then. He smiled and said Maozi probably had some contacts at Palace 64. Either he'd be won over by Xiao King, or they'd have to give a different kind of welcome to this dragon. That night, a black and gold envelope arrived for Lin Zhao. His presence was requested at the annual Elite Gala of Shanghai, held at Palace 64. A big party at 7 p.m. in the lobby. He finds it funny how the timing was perfect. That night was when the first flood would hit Shanghai. That might be a good chance to see who's going to be in this building and how everything would start. He needed to keep an eye on who had resources and maybe abilities that could make a difference. In the days leading up to the event, he kept intensifying his training and began to notice that his body was responding faster than usual. Muscles that took months to develop were now showing up in days. Maybe it was some kind of reincarnation advantage, but he had no idea. In the meantime, he installed countless motion sensors, reinforced the doors, upgraded the surveillance system with artificial intelligence, and even several fully charged generators for whatever was coming. On the night of the party, he looked at himself in the mirror and saw that the boy reflected there was no longer the same one who died at the hands of Mao Ji. With that, he heads to the elevator. The ride from the 99th to the first floor was long as hell. When he reaches the lobby, the door opens and background music and conversations greet him. The luxurious place was shining along with all of Shanghai's elite. Curious eyes stared at him. Everyone knew he was the guy who had won the lottery, the kind of newly rich person extremely famous. A waitress offers champagne, he takes it and stays in the corner, keeping an eye on everything. From afar, he spots the badass. Chen Mina, the Olympic shooting medalist. Her face had been in countless commercials before the floods. Hearing about the others, she kind of seemed indifferent to his arrival there. From the little jacket and boots, it was clear she didn't care much about etiquette and wasn't there to socialize. Lin Zhao remembers bumping into her once at the start of the disaster. The dead-on aim she had saved him once, but they never talked. Near the entrance, Xiao King and Yang Li entered quietly. The sly one has always had a radar man and immediately spotted our boy. She crosses the lobby smiling like nothing had happened. Comes again and sits in Lin Zhao's chair without asking and already drops a "Hey handsome." She leans in, putting everything she's got on display and says she's been trying to talk to him for days. What's going on? Lin Zhao, though, doesn't even look at her man. He just raises his glass and keeps drinking calmly. She tells him to stop being silly and not to act like that. Starts running her hand on him and asks what happened. Did she do something? If she did, she already wants to apologize. He has to understand that he can't ignore her like that. Otherwise, she misses him too much. But man, Lin Zhao doesn't say a word and keeps staring at the crowd as if she didn't exist. Suddenly, Xiao King's smile starts to fade. She then starts yelling, asking if he's really going to keep ignoring her like that, after all the time they spent together. Seeing he still doesn't respond, she throws her champagne. It hits the table and shatters. The noise immediately silences the entire party, and everyone looks over man. Even Chen Mena, who was in her corner, kept an eye on the commotion. On the other side of the hall, the cursed fat guy froze mid-conversation, drawn by the sound. He was the reason they had managed to get into that place. And Xiao King was over there screaming, asking if now he thought he was better than her just because he won the lottery. She stands up to slap him, man. But Lin Zhao just calmly grabs her wrist. She tells him to let go, saying he's assaulting a lady, while Mao Zi pushes through the crowd, furious. From afar, he yells for him to let her go. And man, he's already winding up his fist to come throw a punch. Lin Zhao lets go of Xiao King and leans back, and with that, the idiot's punch hits nothing but air. The chubby guy, all off balance, nearly falls. He pulls himself together to try going at it again, while Xiao Qing is just staring, shocked. Out of nowhere, Lin Zhao wasn't just rich. Now he knew how to fight. That's when suddenly, a deafening noise shakes the building and the lights go out. The ballroom is plunged into darkness, immediately followed by screams and startled gasps. The emergency lights flash, turning everything red. And on everyone's phone, a civil defense alert appears. Emergency warning, critical level coastal flooding. Anyone living near the coastal region should move away now and not approach the shore under any circumstances. Chaos immediately broke out, and everyone who had family near the sea was already crying and making calls. Lin Zhao, on the other hand, watched it all with coldness. He picks up a new glass of champagne and heads to the elevator. The moment he presses 99, he feels a strange jolt. A technopathy power activates from 1 second to the next, and he feels as if he's connected to the entire security network. With that, he begins to close all the emergency doors on every multiple of 10 floor. In other words, on the 10th, 20th, 30th, 40th, up to the 90th floor, everything was shut. Now that everything was beginning, there was no longer any reason to hide his powers. And with everything locked, no one would be able to run up the stairs once the water rose. With that, the elevator ascends, leaving the panic behind. Meanwhile, in the ballroom, the lights come back on. Everyone was hesitant and afraid when Chen Mina appeared. She raised her hands and asked everyone to stay calm, informing them that she had already confirmed with the authorities that this region of Shanghai was safe. They were far from the flood zone, so that alert had been more of a precaution for them. Not to mention that Palace 104 wasn't at any risk, so they could enjoy the evening. Some more suspicious guests left, but most breathed a sigh of relief. In minutes, the music was back on, and champagne for everyone, man. The party resumed. At that moment, Xiao Jing rushed in looking for his sister after the flood news. In the middle of the ballroom, Mao Ji was still looking for that bastard Lin Zhao, when suddenly he spotted Chen Mina way in the back, phone to her ear. She looked a bit frustrated, and right away the fat guy saw an opportunity man, smooths out his shirt, adjusts his belt, and heads over to her. He comes in already asking if the signal's bad during this emergency. Gets closer and wants to know who she's trying to call. She glances without much concern and says she's calling her manager to tell her to leave, making it clear, man, that she wasn't interested in talking to him. But the fat guy introduces himself as Mao Ji, and he owned half the businesses in the Pudong region. Had she ever heard of the Red Sea Group? Chen Mina completely ignores him, and he forces a smile. Suddenly, he snatches the phone from her hand. She demands it back angrily, but he says he's just trying to make sure he gets a little of her attention. While playing with the phone, he says it's not every day you run into an Olympic medalist. He heard her performance was amazing, and he's excited to see it. But Chen Mina just stretches out her hand and tells him to give it back now. Mao Ji, though, keeps going as if she hadn't said anything, explaining that in his line of work, things are a bit different. He knows all kinds of people, politicians, celebrities, even other athletes. He leans in and warns her that it's good for her to know that in a city like this, where he runs things, she could disappear. Chen Mina, however, just wanted to get her damn phone back. Meanwhile, up on the 99th floor, Lin Zhao was relaxed in his armchair, champagne in hand, looking out the panoramic window. On the city's horizon, the first signs of disaster had begun. Far off, where a clear sky should be, a dark line of water was advancing over Shanghai. He knew everything was about to be swallowed. While 99 floors below, the party was turning into a mess. Everyone was already drunk, stumbling and shouting. A middle-aged businessman stumbled out, phone in hand, saying he was leaving. He exits Palace 64 with the cool breeze hitting his face. He was so drunk he couldn't even walk straight, but the taxi arrived quickly. However, just as he opened the door, he heard a strange sound, water. Looking to the side, a massive wave was turning the corner. The taxi was slammed and the car landed right on top of the man. He didn't even have time to scream. The water just swallowed everything. The impact made the building shake again, and in the lobby, the chandeliers swayed and crashed to the floor. Glass shards everywhere, and the lights went out once more. The emergency lights came on, bathing everything in red. Water began entering, spinning the doors and shattering the glass. In seconds, everyone's feet were already soaked. The Dermylon immediately screamed and told everyone to run to the emergency stairs, warning that the priority was to get to the higher floors. Right away, panic took over, and it was everyone pushing and slipping, trying to climb up. Chen Mina broke free from Mao Ji and ran for the elevator. She presses the button, but hears no sound of anything moving. Clearly, it wasn't working. She turns to go to the emergency stairs, but out of nowhere, Mao Ji appears, pulls her, and throws her to the ground. Without even looking back, he opens the door ahead and runs up the stairs. Meanwhile, up on the 99th, Lin Zhao watched everything through the cameras. The lobby was in complete chaos. Mao Ji had been the first to reach the stairs, but the water was rising fast. He notices on one of the screens at the emergency exit, where Chen Mina was on the floor after being thrown down by Mao Ji. The panic kept spreading while everyone stumbled and fell. Xiao Jing tried to force his way through and grabbed his sister's arm so they could go. He told her to run, pulling her, saying they had to go up. But as they reached the door, Xiao King saw Chen Mina kneeling on the floor. The poor girl was still trying to get up. Their eyes met for a second, and you could see that Chenmina was in some kind of pain or something had happened to her ankle, which she was holding. But man, Xiao King only hesitated for a moment, then turned her back and ran up with her brother. The chain maiden, Chenmina, tried to call for help, but too late, man. With that, she started trying to pull herself up using the railing, but the ankle wasn't helping. The pain in her legs snapped again. She fell back down. The water didn't stop rising, but she couldn't move. Far ahead, Xiao King and Jiang completely ignored her cries and kept going up. That's when Liu Mylin appeared with one of the last groups of guests and started leading everyone up the steps. She stops when she sees Chenmina, calls out to her, and runs over asking if she can walk. Chenmina shakes her head, gritting her teeth, saying that unfortunately, she twisted her ankle. And then Liu Mylin, man, without hesitating, throws her over her shoulder and tells her to lean in. They were going up together. With that, the two start climbing, man, and every step was a battle with that girl and her busted ankle. They were both already freezing, with the water probably already waist-high down there. Chenmina held on tight to Liu Mylin's shoulder while her other hand clung to the railing, man. On the 5th floor, it became clear that the water wasn't rising anymore. Finally, the flooding was completely left behind by the 6th. They were exhausted, soaked, but at least safe, for now. And with every floor they climbed, more and more people showed up. Mao Zi enters the ballroom on the 10th floor. Looks like he had been banging on the emergency door for a long time and it wouldn't open no matter what. The chubby guy was soaked in water and sweat, cursing that damn door he had kicked. That party room looked more like a luxury casino. Poker tables, slot machines, and a full bar. That's because in Palace 104, the entire 10th floor was a themed ballroom. Mao Zi comes in right away, leaving soaked footprints. And right after that, Xiao King and Xiao Jing arrive. They stumble in equally drenched men. Xiao Jing immediately calls out to Mao Zi, saying the water downstairs rose crazy fast. Mao Zi's expression changes right away and he tells him to listen. The passage to the 10th was sealed and a bunch of survivors would arrive soon. They had to take control of this place before things got complicated. Not long after, more and more survivors started arriving. Everyone with pale faces, soaked clothes, and some collapsing right to the floor. People were terrified. At last came Liu Mylin and Chenmina, still carrying the girl, man, ankle completely swollen, and of course, everyone noticed right away. That casino had turned into a total mess. Everyone fighting for space, others looting the bar looking for anything to eat, while other groups just sat in shock. In the middle of all that chaos, suddenly, the sound of a gunshot echoed. Everyone froze. Then they saw Mao Zi standing on top of a poker table with a gun pointed at the ceiling. He yelled, telling everyone to pay attention and announced that from now on, he was in charge here. They needed food, water, medicine, and anything they could find. They better start forming groups and head down to the floors that hadn't flooded yet before the water rose higher. Suddenly, he uses a fake little smile and tells them not to worry. Of course, they were going to divide everything equally. They just had to hold out through the night, since tomorrow the water would probably start to go down and everyone would come out alive and fine. But another executive, soaked and laughing, tells the fat guy to go fetch it himself, wanting to know who said he was king now. Bullet to the head, man. Right then, Mao Zi kills the first one. Everyone screams in panic, but they all go silent the moment he points the gun at everyone again, asking who wants to know if he's the king. Obviously, no one answers. He just says that if that's the case, then they better go ahead and start forming groups to go get supplies. Everyone runs to obey, right, man, fear moving every step. Off in a corner, Mylin finds a first aid kit behind the bar and is tending to Chenmina's ankle. Reading her teeth, she thanks her while Mylin tightens the bandage. The survivors gather, all trembling, terror stamped on their faces, while Mao Zi sits in the armchair like the king of the place, just watching while the groups who went down return carrying bottles and bottles of supplies, snacks from the machines, blankets from the suits, everything placed at his feet. Xiao King, all crook, hands over a little towel with a twisted smile, saying that this was what she managed to get. Meanwhile, 89 floors above, Lin Zhao checks the time. It was getting kind of late, so he turned on the room heater. He prepared a perfect steak in the kitchen and sat down to eat. After that, he yawned and went to bed smiling, unbothered by the suffering everyone else was going through. Morning sun hit Shanghai, only now it was flooded with a strange tone. Once full of life, now dirty, water stretching to the horizon. The peaks of skyscrapers looked like lonely islands in the middle of the sea. A man clung to a floating billboard, man. He had spotted the top of a building and was trying to swim to reach it. But in a single instant, something passed under him. In a violent strike, the man was pulled down and his scream was silenced beneath the waves. Meanwhile, high above, a commercial airplane was circling, engines shaking. That's because the pilot had been trying to find a runway since last night, but there was only water. Fuel was already running low. With no options, he attempted an impossible landing on the rooftop of one of the few buildings still above water. Obviously, it was a total failure and the plane was submerged while the explosion sent water flying into the sky. Up on the 99th, Lin Zhao stretched while sunlight passed through the curtains. After a hot shower, he made coffee and some eggs, calmly eating while watching flood news on his tablet. Right after breakfast, he moved on to his set of push-ups, calmly counting each one. 89 floors below, the survivors huddled in fear and cold. Near the vending machines, a man handed out the last portions of snacks and announced that, unfortunately, that was it. There was no more food in that place. The panic of the moment infected everyone. Obviously, Maoji had kept most of the supplies for himself. At that moment, he was standing at the door of a VIP suite, staring at Chen Mena asleep on the bed. He checked out her body in detail, and when he realized no one was watching, he slowly closed the door and entered. As soon as he took his first steps, she woke up startled and scooted to the headboard, asking in a panicked voice what he was doing there. Maoji calmly said he was there to take care of their VIP guest, the only person who hadn't even needed to gather resources. With that, he grabbed her ankle, making her scream in pain. She told him to let go, trying to kick him in the stomach with her other leg, but he just pulled off his coat, telling her to be quiet because nobody was going to help her in this place. Everyone was too busy trying to survive. He began taking off his shirt while she was screaming, but strangely, there were other screams in the hallway, muffling everything. Suddenly, the door burst open and Xiao Jing entered pale, saying they needed to get out of there now. There was something strange in that hallway, looked like a monster. Some survivors said they saw it coming up from the flooded stairs. Right away, Maoji let go of Chen Mena and rushed past Xiao Jing to check the hallway. Right then, he saw the strange monster, a kind of human fish with green skin, sharp teeth, and slit pupils. Everyone was panicking, trying to hide, while many were already paralyzed. Maoji started looking around, trying to find a way to escape. Right away, he spots an old man frozen in fear. And in a single motion, he grabs the guy and throws him toward the creature, saying, "Here, eat this." The creature, which looked starved, immediately attacked the easiest target. While the beast was busy, Maoji ran to the locked door leading to the upper floors. It was just a basic steel fire door, and now he had to make a decision. He only had 6 bullets in the gun, but he could try to use them to survive. Hearing the old man's screams as he was eaten, and afraid more creatures would show up, he fires the 6 shots. Then tells the other guys nearby to hit the door, and everyone starts forcing it. Everyone pushes together until the metal gives with a loud groan. Maoji immediately shoves Xiao Jing, nearly knocking him aside, and starts running up the stairs. Xiao Jing looks on, not happy about it. He sees Maoji yelling for him to come on and running ahead. Obviously, the wave of panicked survivors starts trampling everything. Mylan was distracted helping another group of people, while Xiao Jing grabs her brother's arm and pulls him to go with her too. Everyone was fleeing up the stairs, all while hearing the sounds of the old man being devoured. Chen Mena, though, was still in the suite, holding her bandaged ankle. Groaning in pain, she pushed herself out of bed, heart racing, trying to understand what all the screaming was, and why now there was total silence. Afraid that Maoji might come back and attack her, she decided it was best to leave. But as soon as she stepped into the hallway, what she saw froze her in place. About 6 meters away, the monster was hunched over the old man's body, ripping through flesh and bone like it was nothing. Its scaly skin was soaked in blood and water, its massive claws buried in the victim's chest. Kinbina pressed herself against the wall next to the elevator, trying to quietly edge away. Even her breathing was controlled to the absolute minimum. She was trying to ignore the pain in her ankle, but what she didn't see was a stray shoe on the ground, probably left behind by someone who had fled earlier. A tiny stumble makes the creature lift its head. The silence from earlier is shattered, and now the monster looks at her with a predatory glare. It stands up and lets out a weird sound, something like a shriek mixed with a roar, making her tremble. Chidmina just tells herself, "No way, there's no way I'm dying like this." She keeps walking along the wall, shoulder pressed against it, when suddenly, the monster lunges at her. Desperate, she looks around for anything to defend herself. She grabs a decorative vase from a side table, knowing it'd be useless. What she hadn't noticed was that while backing along the wall, she had stopped right in front of the elevator and just then, the doors open. Startled, she loses balance and falls inside the cabin. The monster's attack slashes through the air where she was just a second before. The doors, strangely, close extremely fast. The creature lands a strike, but she only hears the echo outside. Chedmina backs away inside the elevator until she hits the wall, her heart pounding, struggling to catch her breath. Not understanding what's happening, she wonders how this is even possible. The power had been out for hours, and yet she was there, alive, in a lit elevator that seemingly saved her life. Then the cabin starts shaking and rising. Too tired and scared to stand, she stayed right there on the floor, staring at the door, her ankle throbbing and her mind racing with questions. Where was she going? Who had managed to bring that elevator at the exact right time? And how did that door close so fast? She kept her eyes on the panel as it passed 13, 25, 40, 60. Her breathing slowly calmed as the danger below faded away. But now she was getting anxious and tense. Back pressed to the wall, eyes glued to the numbers, 80, 90, 95. The ascent began to slow as it approached the 99th floor. Imagining something might be waiting for her, she looked around. But in that minimalist cabin, there was nothing. The elevator stopped smoothly, and the display showed 99. With a soft sound, the doors opened and showed the like on this video that helps Mamoru make more juicy content for his viewers. Activate the cheeky little bell, and I'm out.